I have cerebral palsy, but you guys know me as a T-Rex and you're watching My T-Rex Life. Alright, today I want to talk about the 3 main things that I have learned about myself and my disability through movement practice so far. Now, if you're a subscriber of this channel and you've been following my journey so far, you'll know I've talked quite extensively about my recent trip to New York where I worked with the choreographer Tamar Rogoff on movement practices such as shaking and body scripting. And if you've been following me on Instagram, which you totally should, then you'll know how I've implemented some of these things into my daily routine and how I've had a huge focus recently on movement exploration and movement practice as a way to get to know my body better and a way to get to know myself better. And like I said, today I want to discuss the 3 main things that I've learned on this journey so far. So let's get into it. The first thing that I've learned is that up until now, I developed a utilitarian relationship with my body. What do I mean by this? I mean, I saw my body as something to serve me in order to complete tasks, in order to, pursue my passions, in order to be creative and work and be an athlete. But my relationship with my body was purely based on what it could do for me. And through this movement exploration, I've learned that it is so empowering to allow your body to have time to do all of those things, but without expectation, and to really go within yourself and to get to know all the different places and spaces within the body and to explore the different ways that you can move from them and what they can do for you without expectation. I now see my body as more of a vessel, as a home, and as a reflection of, my personality and my being. And I now realize that it doesn't have to be based on, expectation. It doesn't have to be based on what it can achieve or what it can do physically. It can be a combination of those things as well as, just being there for it because it's there for me, it's my body, it's how I move through this world. And it serves me really well. And, I might not move like other people, but there's an abundance of ways that I can move. And through exploring them and, exploring how I can still have myself in that, but perhaps in a more healthy alignment and all those kinds of things, it's just been really empowering. And I just have a whole new appreciation for my body from that. The second thing that I've learned is that I have not given myself enough space to physically relax. Now, for me, I'm quite an easygoing person, so for me to switch off mentally and to relax mentally is quite an easy thing to do. I can kind of block out my thoughts and, the pressures of day-to-day life and really kind of relax and just take time to reflect and to be present and all of those kinds of things. But I've realized that up until quite recently, I've never really experienced physical relaxation. In fact, I would say the first time I've really experienced that was when I was working with Tamar in New York City. Now, Tamar explained cerebral palsy as having an atmosphere under the skin that's very loud and chaotic and erratic and noisy and fast-paced because of the brain damage and the results of that in the brain constantly sending messages to different muscles to contract and to relax, and having the Moro reflex, which means that we live in a state of tension and we are very reactive to the environment, to light, to sound, to touch, to all of these things. And for me to calm my nervous system enough to be physically relaxed is quite a hard thing to do. It was quite funny actually, when I was in New York City and I'd finish a session in the studio with Tamar, I'd walk out onto the street and I'd almost felt like I'd taken some kind of drug. My head was really spacey, but my body in particular just felt like it was like sinking into the ground, or like I was floating through the air, and it was simply because I'd never experienced that level of relaxation before. And I kept asking to Tamar, like, do people walk around like this? Like, how do you move through the world, like being so relaxed? But it's, you know, it's an experience that I'm really coming to appreciate, and I think that it's so important for the body and for people with neurological conditions to be able to find that space to be able to relax. And also being able to relax in movement too. You know, there's so much fear when it comes to cerebral palsy, you know, from the Moro reflex and the fear of falling and all of these different kinds of things, that when we move through the world, we're just so stiff and we're so tense. And, you know, my friend Greg Scala gave me a little, I guess, formula that's really helped me to relax into movement as well. And that is that attention plus awareness equals choice and freedom. So when I'm walking around, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about the different choices I can make when it comes to movement and where I can move from and where my focus can be. And that gives me, you know, choice, and it gives me a freedom. You know, I don't have to revert back to those tense muscles to power me through the day. I can rely on the rest of my body to, you know, take some of the load and to do some of the work. And the third thing that I've learned, and perhaps again one of the most empowering things that I've learned during this journey, is that a lot of the things that I thought were anxieties and psychological fears are actually a result of my reactive nervous system. I had grown to believe that as a person, that I was, you know, introverted, and that I didn't like crowded spaces, and that I didn't like being touched, and that I didn't like, you know, busyness and loud noises and all of these things, because I felt so tense in those environments. And I thought, you know, it was something psychological. I thought that I just wasn't, you know, a person that enjoyed those kinds of things, and that I had perhaps fears that, you know, were either irrational or, you know, that I just couldn't explain. And through the shaking and, you know, the movement practices and experiencing something else, experiencing relaxation, experiencing, you know, a state outside of that fight and flight, I now realize that, you know, these aren't psychological fears and anxieties. These are a result of an overreactive nervous system. And if I can calm that nervous system before I go into those environments, then they're a lot more enjoyable. You know, I can be receptive of people's touch, and I can, you know, I can be a part of a loud and busy space. I've just got to give myself time to relax my nervous system first. Anyway guys, I hope this video has been somewhat interesting for you guys. And if you want to know anything else about these movement practices that I've been incorporating into my life, or, you know, the relaxation techniques and all of these things, please leave a comment down below with some questions, and I'll be happy to share what I know through this journey so far. But most importantly guys, remember to stay shiny, because I love you.